This is a mini video explaining in depth the effects of economic globalization on labor migration. What is economic globalization? Well, held in 2000 discusses the implications of economic globalization, whether economic events happening in one country were directly related to those in another country. Oftentimes, effects of wildly different processes ranging from political, social, cultural, military, and personal were categorized and watered down into the common term of globalization. This is why Held, in the 2000 study, aims to create a working definition of economic globalization that challenges the changes in international economy. He states that economic globalization involves increasing interdependency and integration, which can be explored through labor migration and the possible issues that are faced when attempting to integrate. What is labor migration? Well, labor migration refers to the movement of people across regions for work. Many people, typically from the Global South, move due to poor national wages, substandard working conditions, and to support their families. Hyperglobalists would state that this is a characteristic of a fully globalized world where people hold the freedom to move and work for whatever reason. However, not all migrants are treated and viewed the same. The language surrounding migrants is often dependent on their nationality. In the Western world, there has been an increase of words such as immigrants and refugees, but what's so different about those labels and who are they used to represent? The skeptics, a direct critic of the hyperglobalists, would suggest that this is one of the reasons as to why the world has not fully reached a globalized state, as not everyone can move freely. Some have to take dangerous risks that put their life in danger. Therefore, not everyone is equal in a hyper-globalized world. So are we truly in a global society? If so, why do different passports hold different political weight when traveling? The treatment of migrants is discussed by a study by David Dikoniuk in 2020, who looks directly at the use of refugee and immigrant terms and what constructs a legitimate and illegitimate newcomer in countries. Overall, he found that European public take more kindly to refugees, which can be seen by the helping hand given in the Ukraine and Russian war, where war refugees were taken in by people to live in surrounding countries. However, this is not a generalizable example, as he states that the attitudes towards refugees and immigrants are decided by consideration of ethnicity, region of origin, and region's economic state. This is saw through the inhumane treatment of migrant workers by the general public as well as the government in those countries. A case investigated will be the Millward 2017 study of how the migrant workers building the Qatar World Cup Stadium were treated. It was exposed that hundreds of migrant workers were dying due to heat stress within the last few years due to lack of effective heat protective measures taken. This further solidifies the view of migrant workers as expendable in the countries they work for. Transformationists would suggest that this is happening because the world is not a fully globalized society, but that is in a changing state that is producing negative but also positive outcomes. It looks towards a more balanced perspective that even though there is issues with globalized migration and political attitudes, it's not a wholly negative situation. However, Mike Wilkinson in 2014 looked into the demonization of the other by the British government and their complicity in the exploitation and vilification of migrant workers. It discussed that the contributions made to the British economy are sometimes welcomed. Migrants are often excluded and viewed as external to the UK society and citizenship, with the media and politicians describing migrant workers as benefit scroungers, criminals and potential terrorists. They are to work and remain unseen and unheard. With such an unsupportive environment, they have become susceptible to abuse and exploitation from employees. This study relates back to Dikoniuk's 2020 study, as previously mentioned, as it discussed how labels are forced upon migrants depending on their origin and region, and the negative impacts this can have, such as abuse from employers.